Hi, my name is Brittany. Welcome to my front yard garden. Let me quickly give you a garden tour for the month of June. I'm a beginner gardener here in Zone 6A. And quick friendly reminder, if you like anything in this video, you find it entertaining, give it a like or a comment, or if you want to stick around and see more garden tours, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Okay, let's get started. I look kind of sad in that footage, don't I? I think I was a little down. I feel like I'm really discouraged by my garden lately, and I didn't realize it up until now. But I recently went on a tour of the master gardeners in my county. They opened up their own personal gardens for a tour, and I did that this past weekend, and I'm just filled with invigoration and inspiration. Also, I've recently found a new YouTube channel by the name of Cranery Gardens, and he is such a delight. I'll link his channel below. I'm just filled with inspiration right now, and it's amazing what a couple of days can do for your mood. We'll start here at the front of my yard at the start of the walkway. Last garden tour, I explained how I really wanted sweet peas and they were on their way, and they just look terrible. They are covered in aphids. It's just not going to happen this year for me. I had a few weeks, like maybe just a few days of pretty blooms, and they smelled magnificent. Oh my gosh, they smelled amazing. And just as soon as the blooms came, they left. And you can see if I zoom in here, all those aphids. Usually if I have aphids, I just spray them off with a hose and use neem oil, but my hose doesn't reach very well over here, so I'm going to wait for it to dry out and collect the seeds, and I will try again next year in a better spot. Also in my last garden tour, I mentioned wanting to start a new sunflower here in this spot. This is golden teddy bear, something like that. I'll put a picture, and it is on its way, and that creeping Jenny has gotten bigger as well. Here's that native spiderwort I also mentioned in the last garden tour. It's gotten bigger, although I've noticed fewer blooms, it seems like, at least in proportion to the buds I see. But regardless, it's still really beautiful. I love looking at it every morning. It's one of those plants that shows off its blooms early in the morning and then closes later in the day. Moving on past the spiderwort, my daylilies have started to bloom. These are so pretty. They were here with the property. I don't know anything about these. If you do, let me know. But they come for a few weeks during the year, around this time of year, and I love this color orange. And I think, the artist in me sees the blue with the orange right there, complementary colors, and I just love that. In the last garden tour, I also mentioned dividing my creeping phlox, and it's trying to establish itself right there. We'll see if that works out. And here's a view of the rest of the walkway. Moving left from the front of the walkway, we have my herb basket. Even since the time of recording this video, I have planted in this empty spot where all those weeds are, my basil starts. So that's what that empty spot is for. But other than that, I have some thyme and parsley that's doing just great. I use it in cooking all the time. Here I have some yellow tomatoes. It's a variety from Baker's Creek. I'll put a picture of it. And we already have some starts of tomatoes going. No aphids yet, at least since the time of recording. There were a few today I sprayed off. Usually if I keep on top of the aphids by just spraying them off every few days, if I see them, I don't have to use any sprays. That creeping Jenny that seated itself in the middle of my yard is still doing great. I'm just gonna let it do its thing there. The gomphrena has, even since the time of recording this, has blown up. I love it. It's an interesting texture in bouquets, and it stays well in bouquets. Like, the vase life is very good. It's got this scratchy texture to it that I feel like visually as well brings a fun texture to bouquets. I think this will be a long-term thing for now into the future that I plan to grow in my gardens. It's really fun and it seems really easy so far. My tomatoes have been doing great. I come out here and get a couple of berries every morning. There's something about a really warm tomato fresh from the garden strawberry, that just can't be beat. It's so delicious. And my strawberries have started making runners, so I've started trying to establish them in their own pots so I can have even more strawberries. I'm gonna have to make a bigger bed for this next year because obviously this is not enough room for how many plants I'm gonna get from these runners, because even since recording, I've got runners from the runners that I need to establish now, so I will need to make a bigger bed for the strawberries. Moving on from the strawberries, this is further along my walkway. We've got the creeping phlox there that I mentioned. This was a massive clump that I divided. It's done for the year, of course, but nevertheless, that's where it is. And since the last garden tour, I sowed some Thumbelina zinnia seeds right here. You can see them starting to grow, and these are just shorter zinnias because I don't want too much height in the walkway. Here we have some old stock that I've since pulled. It was done, but look at this status. The status is new to me. This is another one like Gomphrena that I plan to grow for a while. Yeah, the stock, I was trying to save the seed pods and I just got frustrated, so I've pulled them out since this video. Stock, I've also learned, has a lovely smell. Amazing smell. You can smell it when you walk by. So all the stock has been actually pulled from that spot. I'll show you in my next garden tour what I've done. Moving around in this garden bed, we have Coreopsis, which I'm looking at this footage and it looks pretty good, but right now it does not. So you'll see in the next garden tour if you stick around to the channel, but it looks okay right there for now. Some more stock that is flopping over. This also has been pulled. Again, I wanted to save seeds, but I was just getting frustrated. In my last garden tour, I mentioned being frustrated with salvia flopping, and I chopped it since that video. I just chopped it and it grew in the past month and it seems to be standing up straighter. So I'm really happy about that experiment. I'm always scared to cut my plants as a beginner. And we have some new, speaking of deadheading, we have some new flush coming on all of my roses. We have a drift rose here. All those maroon foliage areas, those will be new buds. So very exciting to have a new flush of roses coming. Here's my Princess Crown Margareta David Austin climbing rose, also getting some new foliage. We have some echinacea I started from seed coming up. And here is a little patch of very low growing dianthus. It's like a carpet. I can lift it up. It's strange. I guess while I'm here I'm gonna weed. I forgot about this, but there's parts of it that aren't rooting. It's very strange, but it grows just fine. It's very happy. Here's some butterfly milkweed I planted for the monarchs, and I'm very frustrated with this plant. Even since this footage, there's no more orange on it. It's died. Like the foliage is fine, but it's covered with aphids and ants. I don't know what's going on. And I tried spraying it with the hose and I couldn't beat it. All the flowers have since died. I had maybe a week or two of buds, or flowers I mean, and I don't know. We'll see what it does next year. Moving on from that milkweed, we have some flowering perennials that I started from seed. I'm very excited for these. We have yarrow on the right, we have feverfew in the middle there, and then on the left side of the screen we have some rudbeckia, and I'll have to put all those variety names on the screen because I'm not that type of gardener yet to remember everything. So I'll have to put that on the screen. But here I am seeing some blooms, and they're even bigger since I recorded this, so I will be seeing these rudbeckias very soon. Here we have some feverfew buds starting. They have since bloomed and they're so darling. I'm excited to show y'all on the next tour. Here are my hollyhocks. I can't believe how insane this plant is. Like, it just blows my mind. From one little tiny speck of a seed, I can get this monster of a flower. It's insane. I did get a very helpful comment on my last garden tour that said to watch out for the hollyhocks because they aggressively self-seed, so I'll have to watch out for that, but I still am just blown away. They're so cool looking. You guys, the powdery mildew on the peonies. It's just the peonies. I don't know why, and I didn't have this problem the prior 2 years. It's so bad. I've tried spraying it with like a diluted milk. I read that on the internet that it could help. It didn't help. I'm really worried to use any harsh stuff because I don't want to hurt the pollinators, but that's what's going on there. Here's a little trellis I hand fashioned. I'm trying to grow coral honeysuckle on it, but it's not doing a whole lot right now. It's still pretty low to the ground. I think I need to help it up the trellis more to get it going. This hollyhock is the best. This is one plant, and I'm getting all of these huge stems with all these buds, and the bees love it, as you can see. I always see a bumblebee. Did I say a bug? I meant a bee. I always see bumblebees in these flowers. There's a little guy right there. Actually, a big guy. He's a big boy. But they love it. I can't get enough of it. Moving on from that hollyhock, we have some Zowie zinnias. I can't remember if I was able to show any blooms for you guys in the last tour, but here are the first blooms for those flowers. Really fun. They look like kind of like an Indian blanket. This patch to the left of those zinnias are a bunch of volunteer zinnias and some natives. We have some penstemon right there with the dark foliage. This is a really cool looking plant. I'm curious if I could use that for cut flowers. I bet you could. Never tried it. It's still a baby, so he needs to grow a year or two. We have some Amsonia, and we have some bee balm on the left there, which I mentioned in the beginning of this video. I went on that garden tour of our master gardeners. Everybody's bee balm is blooming, but mine's not. I don't understand. Anyway, moving on from that front flower bed are my snapdragons. But before we get more into the details of the snapdragons, I found little baby cosmos and zinnias in my yard. Isn't that cute? And I haven't put any there, like dropped any deadheads there, so those must have been from last year, because I know in that particular spot I did. Anyway, I thought that was funny. So these are the Potomac series from Johnny's. These things are massive. They're the size of my hands. They're very sturdy, very long stems. If you're wanting to explore cut flowers, I highly recommend this variety, depending on your growing zone. But I have the orange and the red colors there. They're gorgeous. They're like the stunners of my yard. My favorite so far. I'm exploring with growing veggies straight in my yard. I know this looks silly, but I'm one person. I can only make so many beds in 1 year. And sometimes I just wish I could plop stuff straight in my land that I have available to me. So I'm just going to try this, have some bell peppers and tomatoes. We'll see what happens. I'll report back. Moving on from the snapdragons is my main cut flower bed. This was a bed I dedicated strictly for cut flowers. And the cosmos since my last video have exploded. However, I have noticed, like, I thought cosmos was a cut and come again, meaning when you see spent blooms, you cut them off and you'll get more and more blooms. However, one of these cosmos, since this recording here, I've had to deadhead so much. Oh, look at the sleeping bee. I forgot about that. That is so sweet. The cosmos, I've been deadheading so much, it's like down to nothing. So I don't know if I did it too much or if this is not a good variety for that. I don't know. This is afternoon white, by the way, if you have advice. Here's some black night scabiosa. It looks purple here, but in the sunlight, it looks black. It is so cool. I can't get over it. I've since, you can see behind, there's some spent blooms there. I've cut it and I'm trying to dry it so I can save the seeds. Here we have some straw flowers trying to start blooming. They will be here any day now. And the rest is all dedicated to status. I have rose shades and I have the blue shade from the Johnny's website. From Johnny's website. Here are those basil starts I mentioned looking very yellow. That's why I think this day of recording I moved them to the herb basket. Here's some native prairie larkspur I purchased from a local plant sale. It started with 3 leaves and it's dead. It's done. I was pointing out a little root here I saw, so I know something tried to happen, but all I know is I brought it home with 3 leaves, put it outside, and now it has none. I don't know what I did wrong. I wasted $6. I mean, that's like a cup of coffee, whatever. You always learn in the garden, right? Here is a hanging basket I'm starting with some blue morning glory and some trailing rudbeckia, black-eyed Susan. And we've got our standard, extra pots of veggies that everyone does. An eggplant that is getting obliterated by some sort of little black bug. I always have to flick them off like that. And there is a flower there, so something's trying to happen, but I don't know if it'll survive. Mariglobe tomatoes. And here I'm showing that the weed whacker is very powerful, and it will go straight through your pots. So be careful, folks. I've learned my lesson. So there's my cut flower bed and some extra veggies to mention. Moving on from there, we're back at the front to show off the growth on my eucalyptus. This is Silver Dollar, and I don't smell anything on it. I keep checking to see if I smell that eucalyptus smell, and I don't smell anything yet, but it's putting on a lot of growth regardless. Since my last garden tour, one of my heliotropes, which is the plant with the purple flowers, has died. And you want to know a story about that? That was the second one I got from the nursery. And they both just, the roots, turned to fuzzy nothingness. When I dug them up, it was weird. They just looked fine one day and then melted away to nothing. I don't understand. It was weird, but the other one's fine. Here is some yarrow and feverfew and rudbeckia. Same plants as in my front flower bed, but I just put the extras here next to my forsythia, which is getting massive. I don't know if I want it that big, and I'm intimidated by it. I'm avoiding shrubs because I'm always intimidated by like keeping them shaped and stuff. I'm a tiny person. I can't do all that by myself. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. Moving on to the shade garden. This is under my two main trees in my yard. They're huge. One's an eastern redbud and one I still can't remember the name of. I'll have to look it up. But under those trees we have some wild hydrangea, and I'll have to show you a reminder of what this area looked like before, but I totally made over this shade garden. It was a mess before and it looks great now, minus the weeds. I'm not the best weeder. On the bottom left there, we have some New England aster, which had a bloom at one point. I'll put a picture. Didn't last very long. It's okay. It's a baby. It'll look better next year. We have some native columbine, and we have some dittany there, which I don't know anything about. All I know is it looked like my name, Brittany, and that's why I got it. And that's good enough for me. Here we have some hostas starting to bloom. I love the variegation on the leaves. I think it's lovely. I really need to thin out my iris bad. So here's what I did. I'll show you a quick clip of what it looked like before compared to now. It's so much better. It's not perfect, but it's so much better. And that's pretty much the gist of it, you guys. That's my whole garden. And that's going to be a wrap on my garden tour for the month of June. If you liked it, go ahead and give the video a like, comment, or if you want to see more garden tours, click that subscribe button and you can even be notified when I upload next. Thanks for watching. See you next time.